This is 80/20 Programming, your place to master the art of programming by solving problems and building projects. Alright, welcome back. Today we've selected a problem to work called Calculate BMI. We'll work it in JavaScript. We're in Code Wars in the platform. This is an 8-cube problem. Calculate BMI. The description. Write a function BMI that calculates body mass index, which is weight divided by height squared. If BMI is less than or equal to 18.5, return underweight. If BMI is less than or equal to 25.0, return normal. BMI is less than or equal to 30, return overweight. And finally, if it's greater than 30, return obese. Okay. So this is the problem we selected. We're in JavaScript. Let's hit train and open up the platform to work. Okay. Now, what I like to do is, I'm teaching these JavaScript and Python fundamentals by working these coding problems. So first, I like to work with what's known as the prep method to solve problems. And so with prep, you look at your parameters, what's being passed into the function or what you want to work with. Then we'll look at what we want to return. Think about some examples, and then we'll actually work through the pseudocode, pseudocode is, it's our language, English for me, us breaking down how we would work the problem. It's not, before you begin coding, that's probably the biggest secret to success, really, is well-written pseudocode. Okay, so we'll look at the parameters first. We're taking in the height, the weight and the height, okay? And we'll use these to calculate the BMI, okay? And what we want to return, we'll return strings. We'll return underweight, string as a JavaScript and a Python basic data type. It's really just a set of characters that's, between a single quote or a double quote or the backticks in JavaScript. Anyway, we want to return the strings underweight, normal, overweight, and obese. Okay, so and they give us an example. And so they pass in weight of 80 and a height of 1.80, and that becomes normal when we work through the calculation. Okay, so pseudocode, what do we want to do? First, we need to create a variable for BMI. Okay, and then next we want to evaluate and compare the BMI to specific ranges. Okay, and then want to return a string based on those ranges. Alright, so that should work. Okay, for first, to create a variable for BMI, I'm going to start with let. Let keyword is used to establish a variable that can change. So let BMI equal, its BMI is weight, HT, divided by height squared. So we'll do height times height. Okay, that's our BMI. So the BMI, okay, now we want to evaluate. We're going to use something called an if-else statement. This is kind of like it's called control flow. So you see we got the if-else statement here. We're in the documentation. Okay, the if-else statement executes a statement if a specified condition is truthy. If the condition is falsy, another statement in the optional else clause will be executed. This is commonly called a branching statement. So you can go right or left or whatever as you work down through the branches. Anyway, so we want to use the if statement. And so for these two, what we'll do is we'll do an if. Okay, BMI less than or equal to 8.5. Come in here, make the curly braces, open it. If it's less than or equal to 18.5, we will return a string underweight. Okay, so there's the first one. Let's come out here and do the else if BMI less than or equal to 25.0, return normal. All right, let's see, return normal. We'll do another else if BMI less than or equal to 0.0, we will return overweight. Spell it overweight, and then we'll finally hit an else. Okay, down here in the else, return obese. All right, so we established a variable for the BMI, which is weight divided by height times height squared. Okay, and then we come in and we use an if else statement. So we do if BMI less than or equal to 18.5, return a string underweight, and then so on and so forth down until we get to the very final clause, the else clause here, which is if it's none of these, if it's greater than 30, we return obese. Okay, let's see what we have. Let's test it. All right, it passes. Let's attempt it and see if we get full credit. And we do get full credit. This is one way to solve the problem, but there are lots of ways. When we finally go to the next page, you'll see a bunch of different examples. So we did an if-else statement. We could have used a switch statement, which would be this. Hold on. Let me see. Okay, well, we'd still use that BMI variable, but instead of using the if and else statements, we would have come in here and done switch true. And switch is true. Case BMI less than or equal to 18.5. Okay. We return underweight. And we come in here and we have to return underweight. Then we would go case BMI. It's kind of the same thing. It's just a little bit different formatting. 18.5. Then we're going by 25.0. Let's see. I can't remember. Okay, 25.0. And then we would return normal. Okay. And we go case BMI equal to 30.0. Return overweight. Geez, I can't spell that one at all. And finally, case. Case return overweight, and then we'll do default return obese. Okay, the default is just the final case. You have to have it for it to work appropriately. You see, you come in here and you look. This is the MDN. This is the documentation for JavaScript. And it says the switch statement evaluates an expression, matching the expression's value against a series of case clauses and executes statements after the first case clause matching a value until a break statement is encountered. The default clause of a switch statement will be jumped to if no case matches the expression's value. Okay, so they give you a little bit of an example. This is another common method. Sometimes it's used in place of the if and the else if. I like the if and else if myself, but you know, as you work these, you'll learn different ways to handle them and come up with a way you like. And it really, as long as you're solving the problem, that's when you start learning to refactor and make the problem work with less code. Okay. But it's readable. You can come in here and you know what's going on. So let's test it and see if we pass. We passed. Let's give it an attempt. Okay. We get full credit for that one too. All right. Now we'll hop in here. Let's go here and look at some of this. All right. Once it opens up. Okay. You see, we come in here and the first option, which I believe would be the most highest voted one for best practices, is you establish the variable for the BMI, then you just do an if statement until you get through it. But there's other ways to do it. An arrow function with a bunch of ternary operators inside of it. There's a lot of ways to solve these. The switch statement. There's a lot of ways. All right, so we've done it in JavaScript. Let's come up here in Python now. I'm going to go to Python. Okay, solution will train again. We open it up in Python. Now, the way that I would solve this in Python is, in a lot of ways, kind of similar. Except for, Python, when it's handling numbers, handle them slightly different than JavaScript. JavaScript will handle a number, and it can be a decimal or, a whole number, and it's called a number. Python, you have a float, which is a decimal floating point number, which is, like 7.001 or something like that. Then you have an integer, which is a whole number. So we come in here, and the first thing I would want to do if I was solving this is set two variables, one for weight, two, and we'll make that a float. And what happens is if you pass a float in as an integer or vice versa, it will throw an error. Okay, we'll do height 2 equals float. Can't type today. Float for height. We'll do the BMI variable. We'll do BMI calc. We're using Python though, so we will use snake case. Calc equal weight 2 divided by height 2 to the second power. Okay, then we come in here and we're probably going to solve this like a lot of people solve it, and that will be, let's try this out. If BMI 8.5. You see, you look at this, and it's in a lot of ways it's similar. I mean, Python is just a little bit different with the way the syntax is, but once you get the idea of how to do these problems, you can pretty much switch to different languages, and you might have to do a little bit of research to understand the syntax, but the syntax of it, which the documentation has a lot of information on how to set up BMI calc. There we go. BMI calc. Is now equal to 25.0. Return. I forgot to make it a string. Normal. elif BMI underscore calc is less than or equal to 30.0. 30.0. Return overweight. Finally, we'll hit an else. obese. I'll make it capitalized. Obese. All right. Now, if I've done everything correctly, this should do the exact same thing that we did in JavaScript. And we did. Okay. This is just using an if-else statement. But there's a lot of ways to do this. Let me think about another way we can make it more Pythonic. And it's really, you're writing Python code, and there's a big thing in the community about that. I mean, personally, I like to make sure that, I can write the code and it works, and then I can read it if I come back to it eventually. What I would do, though, if I want to make it Pythonic, is I'll leave the BMI calc up here. And I'm going to use that formula again. I'm going to comment that out, and I would come in here, and I would say return. Oh, I got to turn a space. Remember, Python is 4 spaces. It's indented. Return underweight if my calc 8.5, else normal if BMI calc less than or equal to 25.0, else overweight. Didn't do that one. Overweight if BMI calc equal 30.0, and we'll do else obese. Okay, let's see if this one works. It's a bit longer, but you can kind of still get the point of what we're trying to do. Well, based on the BMI calculation variable, whatever the numbers in this variable established here, we will return underweight if BMI calc is less than 18.5, else normal if BMI calc is less than 25.0, overweight if BMI calc is less than 30, else obese. That means we've covered all these, so we're obese. Let's come into test, see if it passes. And it passes. Let's get full credit. Okay. And there we go. Let's unlock it. All right. So we have come in here. We've passed it under all tests. And we can look and spend some time, and you can see the different ways. This is, I guess, the preferred method, best practice, which is a straightforward if statement. You come in here, you can read it, you understand what's going on. You come down in here and you look, though. People solve it with this method, which becomes more Pythonic. Here's the way we just solved it, I believe. Yeah, but anyway, you spend some time, you look at the code, you read what other people are doing, and you start absorbing this. Okay. All right, well, that's it for today's video. I appreciate you stopping by. Have a good day. Hey, thanks for watching. Please, if you found this video helpful, like the video, hit that subscribe button, and share this video on social media. Also, feel free to leave a comment, and let's master the art of programming together.